Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 4th season, we are looking at Kenneth Branagh's 2011 film Thor. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast. Still sans Matthew, but hopefully he will be back soon. Today we are talking about minute 94, which begins with frost giants storming Odin's chambers and ends with a happy reunion between Frigga and Loki. Joining us on the show today, we have James Anderson and Colin M. Parker back, hosts of the Timeline Scavengers podcast. Welcome back, gents.
Hello.
Oh, I'm waving. This is a podcast. I don't know what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We heard the wind.
That's
Heimdall heard it.
Well, happy Thursday to both of you. It is Thursday.
And a very blessed Thursday to you as well.
Yes, and also with you.
And we love celebrating Thor's Day by talking about our favorite Thor moments. It can be from one of the movies. It can be from a comic. It can be from one of the animated shows. What is your favorite Thor moment? Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Thor Ragnarok. He's hanging from the thing. He's talking. And he spins and he can't see him anymore. Oh, hold on. Wait. Hold on, I'm coming back around. I was gone.
that is very good.
When Thor gets to be like Flight of the Conchords, that is when I am just fully in. That's when I knew Ragnarok was going to be different.
Yep, same. Well, I was going to say, same thing for like that same earlier part of the scene where he's like narrating and you're like wondering who he's talking to and it turns out it's just a skeleton.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, yep, this one's already hitting very different. It's hard to pinpoint because at this point, again, as being like a Thor expert of our show, I've been intaking so much Thor content. And it's hard to define things. I think for comedy, like the funnier moments of Thor, pretty much all of Ragnarok is just I think the perfect part of Thor in the MCU. And I think they finally found something that worked because like the kind of ancient god who's super formal in the midst of all this other stuff is just kind of begins to drag after a while. Like the jokes don't feel like they work as much anymore because you kind of hit it and then if that's your only joke. As far as seriousness goes, I think one of the coolest things they ever did with Thor was Infinity War when he enters the battle in Wakanda. That entry is, I don't know if they've ever had a better entry of like a superhero in any movie. That was powerful. It was strong. And the way they like went onwards with that scene, now that he's there to sort of turn the tide, was absolutely incredible.
I see you've copied my beard.
Yes, all of that. And then just as like a side note and like a very short thing, the most recent run of Thor comics has been very good. It's the 2020 series of Thor. It's only like 12 issues in basically at this point, but they've done some really cool things with him fighting with and alongside for a little bit Galactus and even taking some of Galactus's power. It's a wild run, and then they address finally like the Donald Blake situation, and they did some wild stuff with Donald Blake and that whole persona and stuff like that. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it was bonkers, like start to finish, that whole arc. So, I would definitely check those out for comics that are very enjoyable.
Nice.
For Thor comics, I'd like to make a petition to bring back he can only not be touching Mjolnir for a minute before he turns back into the very weak Donald Blake. Because that had some tension in the 60s when it was like, oh no, I'm going to turn back into it, and I can't survive a dragon as that weak human doctor.
Yeah, that cripple.
Let's bring that back. Yeah. Plus, he won't have his walking stick because he won't have, like...
Yeah. There were some rough patches. Some rough patches there. Right?
What if season 2?
What if I got to say though, that's kind of what this is. The stuff they did with Donald Blake was kind of like, what if Donald Blake actually wasn't super weak, and what if Donald Blake could become kind of unto a god? You know what I mean?
Donald the Body Blake.
Really cool.
There was a point in the script early on, not at the point where they were ever filming it, but where they were contemplating having Donald Blake be a separate actor, and it would turn into Thor. And they were actually starting to talk about casting 2 different people to play each of them. And I can't remember who it was. It definitely would have been
Matt
perfect
Damon.
to be the brother, but it was somebody else. And I'm really glad that they didn't go that route, because that would have been rough. I just don't think that whole idea of Shazam works. You know?
Also, too much to do in that first movie.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this minute. So we're starting with Frigga, and I mean, this is, you know, we've got a powerful moment with Frigga here. She has Odin's sword. There is we're right behind. It's almost like a shoulder cam we're on with this frost giant as he walks toward her, and she takes him down with one strike, and he is on the ground out. Unfortunately, Laufey is immediately behind this Jotun and pops up to backhand Frigga, and I mean, I tell you. So this is how we're starting with this. We've got Laufey walking in, Frigga, you know, killing one Jotun. But what's your sense of kind of the way the minute gets started here?
Remember Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan, where Ricardo Montalban was like quoting Shakespeare and stuff? Well, no, that was the old. I think there was another guy that quoted Shakespeare too.
That was Christopher Plummer. Star Trek VI.
Was he Khan's brother?
No, he was a Klingon.
Okay. Oh, right. It's like this, having Rene Russo and Kenneth Branagh and Anthony Hopkins and all these people in this comic book movie is so wild to me, because Rene Russo is so classy, and you don't see her swing a friggin' sword ever. Thomas Crown Affair? No. We didn't see her swinging any swords or whatever. So it's so cool to see her like get to be warrior style when she's like, I don't know, a different. I don't know.
Did you see Lethal Weapon 3? She was pretty kick butt in that.
Well, now I will have to do that, because Thor spin-off Lethal Weapon 3.
Really, I mean, that's kind of how she broke out, is because she was Mel Gibson's equal in that, and like they were trading scars and everything. I mean, she was very, very much kind of that perfect counter to him, and it was very fun. So yeah.
I've seen Lethal Weapon 1,
is what it
and
is,
then the beginning of Lethal Weapon 2, and then it gave me bathroom anxiety, so I stopped forever.
I forgot that's how that movie started until you said it, and
that's a joke, or is it?
Immediately remembered how that movie started. I do have a question, though, about this scene, or this part of the scene. She is, like, they mention it later, not so much in this movie, but she's like a powerful, like, magician, like wizard. I don't know what term they would use.
She's a witch.
Sorceress, I guess.
She's a witch.
She is like ungodly powerful. Why did she pick up a sword? The thing that she's like, I mean, again, I hate to keep you doing like the D&D thing, but this would be like you have a wizard, and you're like, great, now do a melee attack. It's like, use magic missile, use any kind of magic ability you have, but instead you're like, this will work.
Odin's sleep is sapping all of her magic points, her MPs. She doesn't have. I don't know. Is that
how it works?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's definitely one of my questions, though. It's like, this is Frigga. Like, why are we not doing more with this character? And again, you're right. We probably just, at this point in the film, don't have time to kind of continue exploring. Oh, by the way, she's also a witch. Let's watch her do some magic here. It ends up being just a lot to kind of get into the film. But I did feel like this is one of those things where if they had found a way to develop that a little bit more, we could have had something a lot more interesting here with Frigga. And I feel like, you know, the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Kevin Feige really figures out how to involve a lot of characters who can do a lot of different things as we start seeing all the team up films.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, I don't think they really quite had it figured out, but I mean, I think they absolutely could have developed that with Frigga and have had that in the film, and it would have made perfect sense.
I think that's the main reason why the Warriors 3 didn't work out, was because they hadn't really figured out the group dynamic thing yet. But also, this is also pre-Disney money. So I'm also wondering if it's like, we do not have the budget for another CGI power blast attack and like all this stuff. give her a sword and just swing it. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't take any CGI to just go, ha-ja, you know? That I feel like there's a very finite amount of resources, because like you can really tell when the stuff, like when the money and like the ability to do more came into play, because when Thor is flying across the bridge, it's like really kind of weird how much he stands out against the background, and it's like very clearly green screened in.
He's
and
a
then
god,
like
Colin.
Yeah, that's true. I guess he stands out in any crowd. Am I right? No, but like, you know, the later on movies and scenes that he's in, it's like so much more believable. It's realistic. They can do so much more visually. There's way more lightning and thunder, like the further in you go. You know what I mean? I mean, for a God of Thunder, not a lot of lightning from him, really, I feel like in this movie.
Just with the destroyer, yeah.
Yeah. So,
well, no, actually, he uses some lightning in Jotun.
Yeah,
in
definitely in
he
Jotun,
destroys the
which
tower.
I feel like is where a lot of that budget went. But I mean, it was a good fight. It was a very powerful fight, in my opinion.
Well, that's why I think people should do the Christopher Nolan route, one for me, one for you, where it's like you do like a film noir, Jessica Jones-esque, you know, hero for hire. What do we got? Nightwing sort of deal. And then you do your big space CGI battle. You have to bring the quality on both of them, but you can just have sort of this one takes place on Earth sort of deal. And then, I mean, and it kind of did that, but you're right. I think you're absolutely right. The Disney money, you can tell when it's like, we're going to crank, it's like Star Wars. We're going to crank these out.
Well, this was still a point where they hadn't proven that this whole thing could work. I mean, we're only 4 films in, and they're still going, can we do this? Can we plan a 6th film, have 4 and 5 like ready in the wings, get them out, and then actually make this whole thing work where characters pop in and out? And so, yeah, it's still very untested. And so I think...
Was it Iron Man, Iron Man 2, and then this? Okay.
Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, this, Captain America, the First Avenger, and then Avengers.
I do like an Incredible Hulk, but I forget about it sometimes a little bit sometimes.
Because it was posthumously, for lack of a better term, added into the MCU. It wasn't like initially their idea of, you know what I mean? I mean, like, they had some like teases and stuff like that, but like...
Yeah, Universal owned the rights at the time, and so that's, or still do.
Right.
That's the complexities of it. So it's a different animal, the way that they have to kind of integrate that, and so it's
same with Spider-Man and stuff.
Listen to season 2 of the Marvel Movie Minute if you want to hear more thoughts on.
That's right. We got a whole season talking about that one.
You know, it's interesting though that like the conversation about CGI battles and like how things get improved. Turns out Disney was paramount to the Avengers' success.
Oh my! There it is. It is.
That one's for James. That's a James joke.
Colin brought the thunder.
I love it. Brought the thunder. So here we have Laufey. Let's jump back here. We've got Laufey. His incredible red eyes.
Those gross fingernail near the guy's eye.
Red eyes. Yeah. That fingernail, like that icy, gross blue black fingernail.
You know, here's the thing though. Was it actually like unhealthy? Because like, nails might be different for other people. You know
exactly.
What I mean?
For a Jotun, it could be a very well manicured nail.
Like a French man,
Right. I shouldn't judge
because it has to be that thick to like get through ice and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to be kind of gross about it, but yeah. But I mean, again, that's to cut through ice and stuff.
But to my own human sensibilities,
yes.
Is he like Spider-Man? You know how Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man can generate the web fluid in his own body.
Right.
Here we see Laufey generate the ice with his hand. I mean, we've seen it throughout the film. Right. This is something the Jotuns can all do, but maybe their fingernails or part of their hand is like a little ice manufacturing thing, and it actually kind of like pumps the jelly out that turns into the ice.
Look out for the black ice.
I actually, part of this does raise another question, because you were talking about like him like touching his face and stuff. I had a question, and I'm glad that we hit this point, because I didn't notice it in any of my watches until we watched it just now. And I guess it's watching enough times for you to suddenly see it in a much larger scale or context. Why does both Laufey and Loki, why are they whispering? I don't understand that aspect. Like, you're about to kill your enemy, right? I can't understand why you wouldn't be like, and now you will suffer at the hand of Laufey. right? Like instead of
he was out of breath from running along the Bifrost. That one,
it's like a super villain ASMR. It's so weird. He's like, hey, and now I'm going to.
That's how Laufey has been through the whole film. Like, he's a very quiet character. So I guess that's his character. That's probably what
feels quieter
came up
here.
with.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be because there isn't space between the two. Like, he certainly is a quiet speaker, but like there still is the ability, or like, I guess, I don't know what the word is, but you get the sense that it's loud enough for people to hear him when they're on opposite sides of a field and it still carries. But like, it's so weird that in this moment, he's also still like, hey, what's up? Welcome to my YouTube channel. Right.
Yeah.
And then Loki does the same thing. Like,
he's making fun of him.
I guess, but like, it's the idea of like, he comes in to save the day. Right. And like, this is his whole thing. Right. This is his secret plan all along, kind of thing. And instead of being like, I want to make sure that anyone who's outside of the chambers hears me do this, because it's not just enough for my mother to see. I feel like you would be like, and you have, suffered at the hands of Odin's son, right? Like, it's so weird that he also is like, and you die at the hand of Odin's son. Like, just whispering it. It's so weird to me. I'm like, be powerful with your statements, folks. This is public speaking 101. You got to stand tall, stand firm like a tree, and you plant and you deliver that line. It's so weird. It's so gentle. And they're like murdering each other.
Maybe it's because they're trying not to wake Odin. Yeah. Maybe have you thought about there's a sleeping person in the room here?
Exactly.
But then why would you
maybe
open
the's
his
somebody
eye?
outside the door. It's like,
kind of mess with him,
It's like the librarian is outside the door.
Or like putting his hand in a bowl of water. He's like, he's going to wake up and he's going to have Odin pee himself.
Yeah.
He's going to Odin pee his Odin bed. It's going to be so funny, you guys.
Odin diapers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Odin
depends.
Yeah.
Well, well, here's the other question I had. So he pries open Odin's eye, and I do like that the hand actually does look bigger. It fittingly looks like a little bigger hand. So I think that they did a good job with that. But then we cut to a shot of Odin's eye after Laufey has let go of the eye to form his ice blade in his hand, and Odin's eye is just wide open. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, is it going to stay that way now until someone else comes along, presumably, and shuts that eye? Or like,
well,
is it
I was just
permanently open?
I was going to say, do you think he froze it a little bit? Like, do you think that him prying it open, then being like, just like zapping the skin, so it's like,
tiny bit.
Like a Christmas Story, like, licking the pole, but like instead it's just your skin to skin?
That's a good idea, because in when they're battling on Jotunheim, we have the frost giant who grabs Volstagg by his arm, and his arm turns necrotic. It freezes his flesh. And same thing. Well, they do it with Loki too, but of course he just turns blue. But yeah, I mean, he could have just touched it just enough to open the eye and then also to freeze it in place.
Do you think that was
That's
Anthony
awful.
Hopkins' actual eye?
Or is it a stunt eye?
Stunt eye.
This is James' new thing. If he sees a body
we
part,
zoom out and we see like the camera pulls back and reveals.
What's the guy's
Anthony
name?
Hopkins. Colm Fiore.
Colm Fiore. Do you think he was like, all right, Colm, today's
Really
the
get
day.
this.
You're going to touch Anthony Hopkins' face. Here we
You're
go.
gonna pull his eye open. But I don't think it's his hand, because it's a
Stunt
giant hand.
Ah, secret stunt hand.
Yes, right. Exactly. They found somebody with a very big hand and painted it blue. I don't know.
Do you think that it might be also kind of like some of the way that they do some of the trickery for other bodies, where it is essentially him actually touching him with like a mocap thing on, essentially, and then they just like embiggen just that part of his body? Like,
something like that. Yeah,
because he's got a very large man.
That's kind of what they do with like Skinny Steve, is they basically take part of his body and they digitally remove part of his body.
Yeah.
So it's like,
or they just they digitally put his head on another real skinny person's body.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a composite. I read this whole like article last night that I was like, kind of like James does that thing with comics. I like got to the end of an article and then hit the next one and just started going backwards in time about stuff. And they were talking about how like part of it is his body and then another actor's body, and they do this thing where they digitally remove part of his body to fit over top of the other actors, essentially, to make it, because like part of it is that like it has to, I think the biggest part of it was like the neck connecting, I think, or something. It's a certain part of the body needing to look realistically connected or something like that. It's fascinating to watch them.
I got the part. You're Captain America?
Well,
kinda.
We made this joke. Yeah, we made the joke with the guy who's the actor who played Hawkeye for all of the running to the thing and everything, because we never really see that person. And it wasn't, Jeremy Renner was just brought in after the fact for some close-ups. So very funny. I do want to point out, though, that as we're looking at that eye and Laufey pulls the eye open, I love that we can see his reflection in Odin's pupil, that we can actually see Laufey in that. And this is the second time that we've done that. The other time was, of course, with Heimdall, when he's looking down on Thor after Thor fails to pick up Mjolnir in the containment cube. So it's just great. I love that they're playing with reflections in eyes. It's a very tricky thing to film. Obviously, they're doing it digitally, but it looks very cool to see that little reflection of him.
Very comic booky sort of approach. Yeah. Very cool.
So, all right. So we've got all of this going on, and Thor's flying in. My question with Thor is, why is he flying straight across the bridge? Would it make more sense to kind of fly up at an arc? If he knows where his dad's bedroom is, or the Odin's chambers where he has his Odin sleep, wouldn't he fly kind of up at an angle so he can actually like land on the terrace outside, or does he have to like fly through the front door and then take the elevator all the way up?
Well, it's like pomp and circumstance. It's like you return home and you're like a royal, so you have to make your way through the town so that people can see you. It's like it's an unnecessary parade, but it's like you kind of got to do it. It's just a sort of a duty.
Everybody's waving. Oh, here he comes. Okay, there he goes. All right.
Thor. Okay, he's gone.
Right. Yeah. All right. We can go back to watching our shows.
Right.
Right. All right. So anyway, back to the stuff with Laufey. So Laufey is now straddled across Odin. He's ready to stab him. And this is where we have this surprising moment when there's a blast that comes from nowhere and it knocks him off the end of the bed. And what were you expecting? Do you recall what you were expecting with this? Did we think it was Thor at this particular moment? Like, did he get here in time and he is like swung his hammer to hit Laufey? Was it a surprise to you when you saw Loki standing there with Gungnir? Or do you even remember?
I watching it this time, I feel like there's no way that someone along the way was like, and then Loki shoots him. And they're like, they don't have guns. And he's like, oh, okay, all right. The end of the thing. I at this point, I was like, I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. He's going to stab. Oh, nope, he's not going to stab him. Like, Loki being there was not a surprise. I don't think any expectations were subverted. Because it wasn't a hammer, I didn't think it was Thor. But that's just me being led along like a small child. Colin?
I mean, I definitely... It's that thing of even in the first viewing, I wasn't surprised. And I think it's for the same reason that we were talking about when did he split off kind of thing. Because he very clearly leaves with them, but then doesn't show up when they do. And I was like, so this dude's just kind of playing all sides just to see who comes out on top. Or, and I guess I was expecting him to think maybe Odin was going to wake up or something, but then to have him do the actual killing. Mm-hmm. And then, to find out that in comic books, they had done basically the same thing. Like he does a whole thing of like going back in time to talk to his former self to like set this whole thing up to make sure that Laufey falls kind of thing. It's like, it's sort of this predetermined thing that Loki's always kind of done, I guess, across all timelines is just be like, Laufey left me to die. So guess I'm going to return the favor.
I think there's something magical that they're doing with never showing someone come into a room, especially like the guy, like they didn't show Loki like walking in, like haha, because I think that they're trying to do a sort of like he just appeared there, like they're gods. Like walking from chamber to chamber is a thing that we've seen them do, but in this movie, I'm trying to justify why we never see any transitions between like people arriving or leaving scenes. And in this area, I like
not full sets.
Oh, that's fair. Right. That's fair. But Optimus James here would like it to be, because they're trying to convey a sense of like he wasn't there and then he all of a sudden was there. He like appeared, but they don't want to do like a, I Dream of Genie. Time. Yeah, like pop in to like stop, go onto the set there, Tom, and then they film again, which is cool.
Yeah,
kind of a neat thing to do, and so I've made my peace with it. So that long journey is over.
You're good with it. It is the whole thing with the. I think now is probably a good time to talk about Loki and his plans and what he's been thinking to do. I just want my one little note here is because he comes in, he has his line, and your death came by the son of Odin, as he kind of then blasts Laufey to I don't know if he disintegrates him. I don't know if he just gets knocked out of frame. But anyway, he becomes done
part
for
of the golden dust above.
Exactly. That's more stuff for him to market.
Oh, yeah, because he has to be moisturized, so that would make sense.
Exactly. That is a picture wrap on Colin Fiore as King Laufey for the film. So our second picture wrap this week.
Yeah.
But I did wonder, so since Loki said, and your death came by the son of Odin, so is he going to officially change his name from Laufeyson to Odinson when he
this feels
will
like,
he have to do that?
I just finished watching Ted Lasso season 1, and there's a character in that keeps at the end of episodes being like, I've really learned a lesson, and then the beginning of the next episode is like, I'm evil again, and it was making me so mad. And that's what Loki, I feel like, is doing here. He's like, Odin's son. It's like, all right, Loki, you've accepted your heroic call. What are you doing? Why
are you fighting your brother?
What has happened?
Stop.
Like,
now's not the time.
They decided not to have him go that way, even though the moment that they filmed your death comes by the son of Odin.
Well, so here's the way that I read everything that's going on with Loki. And I think it speaks to what we've said is like, this is a person who's doing whatever it takes for himself.
Yeah.
His intentions at the beginning of the film were essentially just to screw with Thor on his day of coronation. As he says later in the film to Laufey, he says, it was just something fun to do to ruin my brother's big day. That was it. It turned into something that he then saw, oh, you know what, I can use this to kind of get Thor into more trouble with Dad, and he kind of tricks Thor into starting a war with Jotunheim. I don't think his intentions were ever to end up on Jotunheim. I think because in the deleted scene, he whispers to a guard to tell them, we find out later, he whispers to the guard when he tells them in the healing room. And so he was hoping, even when he talks to Heimdall, trying to, quote, let them kind of get in, hey, can we take Dad's car out for a spin? It was all kind of in a way, because he doesn't succeed in his conversation with Heimdall. Thor does. All of the stuff that he's doing are things to kind of, prolong their departure in the hopes that his word gets to Odin so that they potentially would stop before they get there. They ended up going to war, blah, blah, blah. But then things shift because now he finds out he's a frost giant and all of this sort of thing. And so I think that he's perpetually moving through this story, like, especially once he realizes that he's the son of a different king, trying to find ways to kind of like, get ahead. And he can get Thor banished. Great. That means I get to be king now because Dad's in the Odin sleep. And I'm going to do everything I can to keep Thor from coming back.
Right.
And it's like everything is all for this guy to just always be the victor. And if it means letting the Jotuns in and killing his dad, and then he's the victor, and everyone's like, wow, you saved Odin, you're the hero.
Right.
It's the most triumphant victory that he could absolutely have. Except Thor comes back.
Because then if Thor's banished, that means that Odin has to then hand it to him. But that's the thing, right? It's like, I think that although, you find out later that he's like, I never truly wanted the throne, but I don't think that's necessarily true. But I think it's a lot of like, you think you want the throne because you don't know what fulfills you, but like you figure it out later kind of situation.
Yeah.
But like, I think he didn't want the Jotunheim throne. He wanted the Asgardian throne because that's what he wanted since he was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, just because he finds out this new thing doesn't change his overall goal, because he's like, I have no true, like, I have a biological connection to Jotunheim, but that's not where I'm from. I mean, it's a little bit of that Guardians of the Galaxy, like, he might be your father, but he's not your daddy, you know?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that kind of situation. And it's the same thing with Odin, even though he knows that he's betraying Odin, like, all the time. And same with Thor. But, I mean, Loki is a very complex character. Is he extremely flawed? Absolutely. But I think that it's very clearly him always trying to have the upper hand, because it's the thing that was also, what's the word for it? Foreshadowed. There you go. I got there. In the first scene of like young Loki and young Thor, where he tells him, you are both born to be kings, but only one of you will, will rise to the throne.
Fight amongst yourselves.
Yeah. I mean, but it foretells so much of their futures, like tenfold. I mean, it shows that the reason why you're both meant to be king is because, surprise, you're actually the son of another king. Yeah.
A prince, right?
Exactly. You are a prince, just not my prince.
Right.
But the Spin Doctors did tell us that there would be two princes. So,
that song was addressed to Odin. 2 princes stand before you.
Mm-hmm. If you want to rule on Asgard, just come on, hey now.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's just that's canon. Thank you. That's new thing. They are prophets of Asgard.
Spin Doctor Strange.
Yeah. I was starting to say something and then I laughed at the same time and inhaled.
I'm going to talk now. So I'm just joking. Go ahead.
No, I'm mostly done. I just think that Loki is a very fascinating character, but I think he's always twisting everything to again be out on top. The thing is him failing his conversation with Heimdall, I do not think is by mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I think that at every point he's very intentionally letting Thor be the instigator on everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's what gets him in trouble and not Loki. Loki's like, oh, I tried to give Heimdall a reason to have fault with us so that he wouldn't let us through. But then Thor, of course, just pushed everybody through and, gee, Dad, guess he's a disappointment. Anyway, when do I get to be fitted for the crown? I'm just, how does that work vis-a-vis, fittings? When you're in the sleep, am I kind of like acting king? Am I like the vice king? How's this work?
Have you heard on Midgard, they have this thing,
I've been watching this wonderful Midgardian thing called West Wing, and walk and talk with me, Dad, or Father.
Walk and talk with me.
Loki would watch Veep. Yeah, I am appeased. The wish that I set forth at the beginning of this week has been fulfilled by Loki. Would have been fine. Loki, hey. On minute 94, Loki's fine. He's done the plan. He's gotten the Frost Giants there. He's betrayed them. Saved Dad. What a hero.
This is it. And this moment right here. Yeah.
Unless something wild happens in the next minute, he is going to be king, and he's fine. His plans have been fulfilled.
Roll credits.
Right. That is a wrap on Loki.
This is the end of the film called Loki.
Right, exactly.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. James, I got bad news.
Needle scratch. What?
There's another minute.
That's right. Sorry, guys.
So that, I'm now appeased about. He wasn't just going all willy nilly wild style. It was that he invited the Frost Giants. He was going to betray the Frost Giants and be a big dang hero, a big friggin' hero. And then other things maybe hypothetically take place allegedly.
I guess we'll find out.
So I feel good about it. I no longer feel confused about why he can't hold on to a loyalty for more than a minute. So
it's all part of the plan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's all part of the plan.
Turns out.
He does have daddy issues, so it does explain a lot about him.
Right. Yes, and we're going to get into more daddy issues in the next minute because there are plenty there too. So I think that's about it. We've got this point where, Frigga and she runs to Loki. Loki, you saved him, and everything is hunky-dory, and that's it. So let's wrap it up. We'll come back, and there's not much to talk about tomorrow. We got some credits and stuff.
It's me, Loki, your only son.
Exactly. That's what we have. So, all right. Well, the two of you, thanks again so much for joining me here to discuss minute 94 of Thor.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Remind everyone again where they can find your podcast and tune in to listen to more of you talk about your Marvel timeline.
Absolutely. We can be found, you can find our Twitter feed at twitter.com/timelinescav. That's where you're going to find what we linked all the shows we do. We're going to have at the end of weeks, we're going to have sort of, this is what we released this week, going into increasing the number of releases we have in a week, or putting in, backfill episodes when there are flashbacks that take us back beyond 1931. Apparently other years besides 1931 exist, I'm told.
Yeah.
And so if you follow at Timeline Scav, that is a good place to start. If you want anything else, you can follow at Scavengers Net. That's a good place to follow our podcast network, Scavengers Network. I'm at Unabashed James. I don't know if we do that at the end of the week, but that's another good place where I will retweet stuff that I'm on when I'm like a guest on stuff.
Right.
I will often do a decent job of retweeting that kind of stuff from there.
And I'm at Colin M. Parker, ColinMParker.
Excellent. All right. Well, both of you again, thanks so much. And to all of our wonderful listeners, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Get in on the conversation. We'd love to get your thoughts on everything that we're talking about. As Matthew would say, have a good day. And as I always say, until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is One Last Ride by Martin Puringer. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.